الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحابته ومن استنى بسنته واهتدى بهديه إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Today inshallah we will be continuing on commenting on Kitab Al-Waraqat li Abdul Malik Al-Juwayni rahimahullah. We reached at his statement when he said والفقه أخص من العلم والعلم معرفة المعلوم على ما هو به والجهل تصور الشيء على خلاف ما هو به. It is translated more or less. Jurisprudence is more specific than knowledge. Knowledge is to recognize what is known as it exists in reality. Ignorance is to imagine something differently than it is in reality. Okay, do you have a title at the beginning? It says that الفرق بين الفقه والعلم والظن والشك. It says difference between jurisprudence, knowledge, suspicion, and doubt. You have this? You have this? It is not from the author. Okay, it is from the editor. It's not even from a nasikh, from the scribe, from the one who the manuscript was written by. This is added by the editor, al-muhaqqaq, the one who went to edit and to footnote and so on and so forth. Okay, now he's talking. Because he defined what al-fiqh is, he gave you the rulings, the 5 rulings. Now he's talking about some of the things that could be confused or not understood properly when we're talking about al-fiqh, the fiqh that we just talked about. Now we have al-fiqh, we have what we call knowledge. Also we have the doubt. We have al-dhann meaning uncertainty or uncategoriality, and we have al-wahm, something that is called al-wahm. Okay, al-wahm is like his suspicion that you are that there is a level of unjustified guess, uneducated guess, that there is no basis of why you have doubt, okay, or unjustifiable doubt. This is called wahm, and we'll be talking about this inshallah. So then he said jurisprudence, al-fiqh, is more specific than knowledge. Now it has 2 meanings. What he's saying here, it has 2 meanings. Jurisprudence, he's talking about the terminological meaning of it. So he's not talking about al-fiqh in its entirety or in its generality. He's talking about al-fiqh that we just defined. The defined fiqh. Okay, the fiqh in terms of the usage of al-fuqaha, the jurists. What do they mean when they say al-fiqh? Which is معرفة الأحكام الشرعية العملية من أدلتها التفصيلية. So what he's saying here, it has the possibility that he intends this meaning. Okay? The other meaning, or the other possibility of what he wants, is that he's saying jurisprudence. He's not talking about jurisprudence. He's talking about al-fiqh, meaning a particular type of understanding, compared to knowledge. So then we have al-fiqh and we have knowledge. So he's not talking about al-fiqh in terminologically compared to knowledge. He's talking about al-fiqh linguistically compared to knowledge. Okay? So it has 2 possibilities. Now, the translation assigns one meaning. So what does he mean by the translator? The terminological one. So then, in terms of terminology, when we're talking about al-fiqh, it's a specific type of science that has rules, basis, axioms, and so on and so forth. that we just talked about. Compared to knowledge, it will be specific. Because we have other sciences, all are called knowledge. Like we have tafsir, we have aqidah, we have hadith, we have nahu, and so on and so forth. So in terms of knowledge, fiqh in that particular terminologized way, it means what? Jurisprudence. So then it is specific from a general knowledge. It is a specified type of knowledge. يعني meaning knowledge is a jins, under which you have multiple types of it. One of it is what we call fiqh, terminologically speaking. So it's like you have a, imagine knowledge as a university. That's why they call it university. You're talking about universal knowledge. That's the meaning of it. Okay, university. University means that you have knowledge. Then under which you have multiple departments. The Department of Social Studies, you have the Department of Science, you have the Department of Linguistics, and so on and so forth. Okay? So then, in that sense, jurisprudence is definitely a specific type of knowledge. Now, as for the meaning of it linguistically, then al-fiqh, it's not any knowledge, but it's knowledge with some deep understanding. So people, they will have multiple levels of knowledge in fiqh, in nahu, in tafsir, in chemistry, biology, and so on and so forth. But they will have layers, multiple levels of understanding. There is a level of understanding called fiqh. So in that sense, it is specific from the general knowledge. Okay, from the general knowledge. Now, the way that he went on to define knowledge would tell us that the proper understanding of him saying al-fiqh is not the prior meaning, it's the later meaning, not the former meaning of it. So he's not talking about jurisprudence that he was talking about, meaning معرفة الأحكام إلى آخره. So it's not a particular science. He's talking about the understanding, يعني a level of knowing. So then you have knowing, then you have a level of knowing that we call al-fiqh. What's the evidence for that? The context, because he went on to talk about a particular definition of what we call knowledge, al-ilm. Okay? هل هذا واضح يا إخوة؟ واضح الحمد لله. He said, so then, if we know what knowledge is, then we're going to understand the meaning of al-fiqh in the sense that we were talking about. يعني meaning, يعني what do we mean? يعني namely here. This issue is epistemological more than it is jurisprudential, more than it is legalistic. Because you will be talking about multiple sciences that you will have fiqh, and you can be faqih in biology, you can be faqih in chemistry, as you are faqih in that particular science that we call fiqh, that is al-ahkam al-shar'iyya al-amaliyya. You are faqih fil aqeedah, you are faqih bil tafsir, in that sense. Okay? So then, the issue that Al-Juwayni rahimahullah is talking about here, it's called, it is related to nuzum al-ma'rifah. We call them nuzum, يعني epistemological, they call them in English, epistemological issues. It is the reason why some ulama say that Usool Ul Fiqh is actually the epistemology of al-fuqaha. This is what they usually sometimes can call it. يقولون هي نظم المعرفة for al-fuqaha. And this is, by the way, for those who are interested in translating epistemology, they usually translate it as نظرية المعرفة, the theory of knowing, or the theory of knowledge. It is better to be translated as نظم المعرفة, not the theory, because the theory is only part of a system of understanding knowledge. ولهذا epistemology is talking about نظم المعرفة, systems of knowing. You have multiple systems. Everybody would have his own systemization of how do we know. Okay, and generally speaking, we have two basic or two major schools of epistemology. Because what is al-qadiyya al-asasiyya? They call it, what is the essential issue in philosophy? Epistemology. Okay, meaning that how do we know what we know? First of all, what is the meaning of knowledge? What's the nature of it, and how it is acquired, how it is implemented, what would come before, what would come after, وهكذا. Okay? So now he's actually talking about epistemological issue. If you go to al-Mutawwalat fi Usool Ul Fiqh, you will be so indulged in logic and this epistemology. But here we will touch on it just for the brevity that he mentioned. He said, al-ilm, knowledge, is to recognize what is known as it exists in reality. Very terrible translation. Because how to say knowledge is to recognize what is known. This is, they call it redundant. Okay, you're repeating yourself. Knowledge is to recognize what is known. Okay, it is not the way that we do say al-ilmu ma'rifatu. Ma'rifah. Look, we will explain what the author rahimahullah is saying, and we will give you better translation and better definition. You see, wal-ilm ma'rifah. Because look, usually the ulama differentiate between al-ilm and al-ma'rifah. Okay, when they talk about ilm, it is translated when you talk about al-ilm, it's knowledge. Okay, while al-ma'rifah is science, but not with its now terminological meaning. Now when we're talking about science, we're talking about a particular type of seeking knowledge, right? So al-ilm, now science is methodology more than it is knowing. Now when you hear science, okay, the scientists say so and so, you're talking about a particular way of acquiring particular type of knowledge. That's we call, this is the type of knowledge which we call science. What is it? You're talking about a particular type or a particular method of acquiring it. Because when we're talking about science nowadays, you say that it is that you have an observable phenomenon. So therefore it must be something observable, experimental. Okay, are you with us here? If that particular observable phenomenon is observed, or it has the capacity of being observed. If this is the case, then you go on to provide assumed explanation. That assumed explanation is purported. What do we call it? Hypothesis. This is a hypothesis. Then you go to falsify it. This is called the principle of falsification. We try our best not to prove the explanation, but to falsify it. If it is unfalsified through that process, then we call that explanation theory. It is a theory. This is what we talk about now we say science. So science, it's not about the knowledge itself, it's about the method. It's not about the substance. These are the data that will help us to reach to our conclusion, to our theory. So it's not about the substance, rather than orientation, how we do it. Okay, this is what we call science. Now, if you put this understanding aside, when we're talking about knowledge, it is al-ilm in the Arabic language, while al-fiqh, while al-ma'rifah is science. Okay, al-ma'rifah in English, not with this method that I just presented to you, is translated to be science. It's a Greek word. It means al-ma'rifah. Now, usually the ulama, they differentiate between knowledge and يعني they differentiate between science, epistemologically speaking. They differentiate between science يعني معرفة and العلم. They say that العلم is only for certain things, as opposed to معرفة for the certain and the uncertain. However, science, which is المعرفة, you know after you don't. Okay, while knowledge, it is not the way that is al-ma'rifah. If you know, then you don't. That particular type of knowledge, we call it ma'rifah. But as long as you know it, then we call it knowledge, ma'rifah, ilm. They differ. Look, they say, according to them, they say that we differentiate between knowledge and science. Knowledge is ilm, science is ma'rifah. Okay. In what sense? They say that knowledge is only certain. Again, it's not related to the method. It is related to that which you believe in. Okay? What you have, what you possess. It's not the way that you acquired it. واضح? So they say that knowledge is certain, although it could be the case that you acquired it with doubt, but then it ended up being certain. In that sense, then we call it knowledge. Okay. The second thing while al-ma'rifah would be for both things you are certain about or you're uncertain. Both we call them science, ma'rifah. They say that knowledge, it's the possession of knowing after you know it. Okay? While al-ma'rifah, it's the process now. Okay? Knowing after you don't. Okay? If you know things after you don't, that's thing we call it ma'rifah. We don't call it ilm, we call it science. While knowledge, it's not this way. It's not about that you know then you don't know, because this is repetitive, redundant. You already know. How do we know? You know after you don't know. It's only when you know. Okay? It's only when you know. Now, if you ponder over this definition, you won't accept it in its generality, actually. You would say that, well, if we use the linguistic usage as well as the usage of the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then we will notice that al-ma'rifah sometimes used for certain things, while knowledge, al-ilm, is also used for uncertain things. The example is, Allah says, يَعْرِفُونَهُمْ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ. Allah says that الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَعْرِفُونَهُ, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, or the change of al-Qibla, or al-Islam, or the Quran, كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم, as they know their children. Okay? كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم. Now, Allah says يَعْرِفُونَ. Now, is this certain or uncertain? As you know your child. Certain. Allah says فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ مَا عَرَفُوا كَفَرُوا بِهِ. And this is certain. Now, for the use of knowledge, ilm, to be for the uncertain, Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ مُؤْمِنَاتٌ مُهَاجِرَاتٍ فَامْتَحِنُوهُنَّ اللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِإِيمَانِهِنَّ فَإِنْ عَلِمْتُمُوهُنَّ مُؤْمِنَاتٍ. Allah says, فَإِنْ عَلِمْتُمُوهُنَّ مُؤْمِنَاتٍ. Now, it is about their hearts, right? And Allah called what we know about their hearts, which is completely uncertain. It cannot be certain until we have nas. Allah says, فَإِنْ عَلِمْتُمُوهُنَّ. Allah called this ilm. So then we say that there is, linguistically speaking, there is no differentiation. Okay? They could be used interchangeably. Because some ulama, they say that al-ilm is an attribute for the creator and could be even attributed to creation, as opposed to al-ma'rifah, that is only attributed to creation. This is not the case. تعرف إلى الله في الرخاء يعرفك بالشدة. Yes, it is not a self-attribute. This is a major difference. We would agree with this. It is an action attribute. It is not a self-attribute. But still, it's an attribute. It's an attribute of Allah Azza wa Jal. It's like, as it is reported في عند ابن أبي شيبة, that when people were killed in the battle for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, some of them that they were able to recognize them. Others, they were not able to recognize them. And that's what they said to Umar. Umar, they said, Allah يعرفهم. Allah recognizes them. Allah يعرفهم. So then there is no, that if someone says that we differentiate that al-ma'rifah is only attributed to the creation, while knowledge is attributed to both, we say if it is for the self-attribute, we would agree. If it is, however, for the action attribute, we disagree because of the Secondly, we say that the point is to affirm the attribute, and it is affirmed in both, for both, يعني for the creator and for the creation. طيب, do we then يعني through this definition under the bus, we say that epistemologically, terminologically in epistemological terms, we would accept that definition. Okay? It's only for the distinguishment in epistemological context, only. So, bear this in mind. So it's not the usage of the Book of Allah, not the usage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not the usage of the Sahaba. They don't have that, and they are the people of the language. But if we deal with it in its epistemological implementations, we would go with the terminological understanding of it. He said, knowledge is to recognize what is known as it exists in reality. It says, العلم معرفة المعلوم. Look, do we all affirm that there is a reality, right? Right? Anybody who says that there is no reality? Okay, so everybody affirms that there is reality. What is reality? Ahsan. Anything that is affirmed fil kharij. When we say affirmed fil kharij, يعني outside of you, outside of your mind. يعني it's not subject to you, it's not subjective to you. It's out of you. It exists regardless of you. Okay? Now, who are those who deny reality? Say that there is no reality? Sophistics. Okay? Sophistry, they call it. Sophistics. Either that they will say that there is no reality, meaning that there is no haqiqah, or that they will say that there is reality, but it's subject to the beholder, to the considerer, to the reckoning of you. Okay? Or that they would say that there are reality, but it's unreachable. Unreachable. That there is reality, but it's unreachable. Okay? Sometimes we have people who are called agnostics. Agnostics, they will say that, well, we are not sure. We don't know if there is reality or there is no reality. But then we are coming from, bihamdillah, the stance where we believe that there is reality, bihamdillah. Now, this reality is a thing that is affirmed outside of you. يعني الحقيقة, when we say الحقيقة, هذا الذي يثبت أو الموجود خارجا عنك. Okay? الموجود. Again, what is الوجود? What is existence? Absolute affirmation. If we say that we have an absolute affirmation outside of you, this is what we call reality. هذه هي reality. طيب, what about your existence? Is it reality? How is that for you? طيب, let's suppose that you are the only one on this planet. This is Berkeley. This is how, because he said that Berkeley, he said that your existence is to be realized. طيب, it says that there are things that we don't realize them. It said God realizes them. That's why they exist. قال وجودك أن تدرك. Some people say to him, so you are so easily refuted. There is a hole, we're going to dig a hole in front of you and close your eyes because you don't see it, therefore it is not realizable, therefore you can walk. Okay? فالمهم إذن يعني the thing is that there is reality. We are from it, and we don't want to indulge in this discussion because this is going to take our time, and it's not appropriate to the context. Now, we say that what knowledge? He said, العلم معرفة المعلوم. Again, معرفة is up to their definition, epistemologically. Okay, what is al-ma'rifah? To them, the uncertain, and it could be certain, but it's realized or known after it was not. That, he says, is to recognize what is known as it exists in reality. Al-ma'lum, معرفة المعلوم على ما هو به. Now, what do you mean by known? He said, معرفة المعلوم على ما هو به, as it is. As it is where? In reality. Regardless of you, it's not about you. It is in reality. It is meaning being. As it being. Okay? In reality. Okay? And we just define what reality means. طيب, this is what العلم is, according to him. There is another definition which is even more common than this, that it is going to make things clearer for you بعون الله. حينما نعرف العلم نحن نقول العلم معرفة الشيء أو إدراك الشيء إدراكا جازما لموجب. Okay, again, we say that we want to define knowledge or even ma'rifah, both. Okay, terminologically, again, it is the realization. Okay, ma'rifah, the realization of a thing as it is, meaning in reality, with certainty. لموجب, for evidence or by evidence. Okay? So then, what do we mean by knowledge or ma'rifah? Knowledge or science by definition. By which definition? The epistemological one. Okay, في الاصطلاح الخاص هذا. What do you mean by? We say that العلم هو إدراك الشيء على ما هو به إدراكا جازما لموجب. That it is the realization of a thing as it is, meaning in reality, with certainty for evidence or by evidence. Okay, we need then to have some explanations of these, and we will avoid, inshallah, any inextricable problems. Both, like what we say, both. Okay. Now, it is the realization. Simply put, when we're talking about realization, when they usually speak about realization, again and over again, this is in this context. Okay, and we don't have time for long discussions. We are here just to fulfill the purpose that he mentioned, what he is mentioning. We said that it is the realization. When we're talking about realization, it means that anything that هو الإحاطة, that you possess, meaning in terms of you have the knowledge itself, that you possess without sensing. Okay, without sensing. This is called al-idrak. يعني I will give you an example to make things simpler. Imagine now, مثلا لا قدر الله, I missed all of my senses. Okay, I don't see, I don't hear, I don't taste, I don't touch. Okay, I don't smell. Now, am I still realizing that you are here? Even though I don't sense you. Am I still realizing that? Yes? Okay? Even for a second, but it's still that I realize that you are here. It could change that you leave, but I realized that. Even though that I don't sense you. I don't touch you, I don't smell you, I don't see you, I don't hear you, I don't taste you. Okay? So this is what we call realization. هي الإحاطة من غير حس. Okay? الإحاطة من غير حس. So when we're talking about al-ilm, we're talking about the realization, يعني the end of that process. The end of that possession. Okay? الإحاطة. Realization, هذا هو الإدراك. Okay? So then, what al-ilm is the realization of a thing as it is. Okay? Of a thing as it is. When you say a thing, it means whatever. Because you usually hear in English you have person and a thing. A thing is an object other than the person. Like when they say that, do you believe in a person or God? Okay, what do they mean? That it's not a thing. It's not an object. It's a personal thing, that it has a personality. Okay? So then we say that it is the realization of a thing which would include a person, a thing, as it is. Okay, as it is. Yeah, I mean as it is in reality. Again, who would define reality? What is reality? Exactly. Yeah, I mean anything that exists outside of you. And definitely if it exists outside of you, then it's reality. If it exists, meaning that it's absolutely affirmed, it means that, and if it's outside of you, it exists. Why? Because that there are things that exist within you, in your mind, but they don't exist in reality. Like what? Emotions that they exist. That's why you sense them. But they are called internal senses. Okay, emotions and sentiments, they are internal senses. Like if you are hungry or angry or thirsty, okay, or jubilant, happy, these are internal senses. You sense them, but they are internally sensed, as opposed to the external senses. Okay, when you smell, when you see, when you touch, okay. Non-existence. Does it exist? Yes, where? In your mind. That's why you are able to negate it. Okay? If it does not exist, how to negate it? The only reason that you negate it is because it exists. However, how does it exist? In the abstract. Your mind has the function to assume non-existence in order to deny it. So the only function of the mind in order to affirm non-existence is to deny it, to negate it. The point is that when we're talking about al-ilm, is the realization that I've just defined to you as of a thing as it is, meaning in reality, with certainty. Okay, with certainty. Now, why do they say as it is? In order to negate a thing that we call al-jahl al-murakkab. Because some people believe that they know things, while in reality, they are not. Meaning not the way that they know them. So they have knowledge according to them, but it's not in reality. That's what we say as it is in reality. This type of jahl, this type of ignorance, we call it compound jahl. Okay, jahl murakkab, compound jahl. So then you know things as it is in reality, with certainty, in order to oppose what? الشك, doubt, and the dhann, and the wahm. 3 levels. In order to avoid or to negate shak, doubt, suspicion, skepticism, uncertainty. Okay? Because when you say uncertainty, it would include suspicion, skepticism, doubt. These are all types of uncertainty. So then, the realization of things as they are in reality with certainty. طيب, is this certainty happens, or because there is a reason for it, that there is a cause for it? That's why we say that it is because there is a cause for it. That's why we say limujib, for by evidence. Okay? Because you have evidence for it. Okay? هذا واضح? This is what we mean by, and he will talk about the evidence. What do you mean by evidence? Okay, what is evidence? And we'll talk about this. This is important. This is called the nature of evidence. What is evidence? The evidentiality, we usually call it in English. Evidentiality of a thing. Yani, what is evidence? How it is acquired? To what extent that it's going to allude, dignify, signify that which it's called evidence for. وهكذا. We'll be talking about this inshallah in a moment inshallah. هل هذا واضح يا إخوة؟ So this is the meaning of what we call العلم or المعرفة epistemologically. طيب. By evidence. يعني you know, يعني it is the realization by evidence. Now what's the opposite of that? The realization without evidence. Okay? It is called the realization without evidence. طيب. Now, since he spoke about al-ilm, he will speak about its opposite. What's the opposite of it? Ignorance. Or actually, if you'd like to be more meticulous, accurate in your wording, you would say that you have ilm وعدم العلم. Okay? عدم العلم, which would include ignorance. How we translated shak, dhann, suspicion, doubt. So then, what about al-wahm? Did he include al-wahm? And also we have al-wahm, that which we call al-wahm. And we'll be talking about this inshallah. So then, the opposite of knowledge as defined is these 4 things. What are they? Ignorance, doubt, suspicion, and al-wahm. Al-wahm. We'll be talking about it inshallah, and we will figure out a good translation for it. Now, what is, then we have al-jahl. Okay? Then we have al-jahl. طيب, he said ignorance. Look here, boy. Al-jahl, linguistically speaking, al-jahl, it would mean 2 things. Al-jahl, which is the opposite of ilm. It also means al-jahl, the opposite of, al-rushd. What is al-rushd?
Guidance.
لا. يعني if you behave, mindfulness. If a person competent, okay, to behave competently. If you are a competent person, okay, meaning that you have a sound mind, you are good to be consulted. Okay, you are good to be consulted. This is called rushd. It's when Allah Azza wa Jalla says, فإذا يقول الله عز وجل حتى إذا بلغوا النكاح فإن آنستم منهم رشدا. Rushd meaning that you are competent to behave. You have the capacity to behave. You are good to be, you know what to do in a particular circumstance. Yes, to be competent, not necessarily that you are competent in all facets of life. You are competent in terms of nikah, in terms of buying, in terms of jihad, in terms of, being committed hudud, and so on and so forth. ولهذا قال العلماء الرشد في كل باب بحسب. That being competent in every realm of jurisprudence fits its circumstance. So it could be possible that a person is a savvy man in terms of politics. He's a statesman, but he's very horrible in terms of marital relationship. So he's not Rashid here, while he is Rashid there. Okay? So then the ignorance that we're talking about here is the opposite of knowledge that we just defined. He said that ignorance, he said, وَالْجَهْلُ تَصَوُّرُ الشَّيْءِ عَلَى خِلَافِ مَا هُوَ بِهِ. He translated it as thus: ignorance is to imagine something differently than it is in reality. Now, you say ignorance is to imagine. Not to imagine, is to conceptualize. Okay? Not even to visualize, is to conceptualize something differently than it is in reality. Okay? Meaning, look, ignorance is to imagine. Better put is to conceptualize. Okay? What do you mean by conceptualization? It is translated in the Arabic language as a tasawwur. Okay? We have something called a tasawwur. Now, what do you mean by a tasawwur? التصور تعريفه هو إدراك المعنى المفرد خاليا عن الحكم. Okay? It is the realization, again, when we talk about conceptualization. And I think you know the difference between conceptualizing something and defining something, right? Because when you want to conceptualize some things, you can conceptualize it in the affirmative as well as the negative. You say what that thing is not. Okay? As you can define, as you can understand it as what it is. Okay? While in definitions, you cannot. In definitions, only you can affirm, but you cannot negate. You can define things but by what they are not. Okay? You define them only but what they are. What they are. واضح هذا إن شاء الله. So when we're talking about conceptualization, it's the realization, we call it. Okay? It's the realization of an individual, meaning the subject matter. Okay? When we talk about the individual, it means the subject matter. It's the realization of an individual subject matter. Okay? بلا حكم. It's deprived from judgment, ruling. Making things so simple. If I say to you, what is a car? So simply put. Then that conceptualization of it to you, not, whether that is subjectivist, essentialist, or functionalist, in any way you conceptualize it, because if when you define things, when you conceptualize things, either that you conceptualize them essentially, meaning what they are. You're talking about their liquidity, what they are, or you conceptualize them in terms of their functionality, or you define them, understand them, conceptualize them in terms of their how they are related to you, subjectivist, that they are subjective to you. So then, if I say to you, what is a car? Whatever conceptualization of you, or related to their equity or to their functionality, this is called what? Tasawwur. This is what we call a tasawwur, conceptualization. Now, we say that, but without given ruling. And for example, you didn't say that this car is bad, without bad. This car is good, this car is expensive, this car is for Muhammad, this car is not for Muhammad, and so on and so forth, without giving any judgment. If you don't give rulings, this is called tasawwur. The moment you give rulings, this is called tasdiq. If you affirm or negate, إثبات أمر لأمر أو نفيه عنه. The moment that you affirm in anything to that thing that is conceptualized, or you negate it, this is called tasdiq. Now, as for al-jahl, what is ignorance? He said, ignorance is to imagine, meaning to conceptualize something differently than it is in reality. Okay? Look, ignorance in terms of the conceptualization, sometimes you will have a ruling, you will have tasdeeq for it, and sometimes you won't have tasdeeq. Okay? And in both cases, that person is ignorant. Look, the moment that you conceptualize things, okay, but you didn't give judgment, meaning that you don't know about the judgment, then we call that type of ignorance simple. Simple ignorance. جهل, they usually call it بسيط, although that بسيط في اللغة العربية it means wide, يقبض ويبسط. يبسط الرزق. البسط meaning it's wide. Widespread. Okay? But they usually say simple يعني بسيط. يعني يسير. وهذا لا ينبغي أن يكون في اللغة العربية. Anyways, so then if you have a conceptualization of a thing, يعني you have a تصور, while you don't have a tasdeeq, meaning you don't have judgment, you don't have ruling, we call it simple ignorance. For example, if I say to you, if I say to you that, what do you think about this car? Or is this car expensive? You say, I don't know. Then your ignorance is what? Simple. If I say to you, what is the definition of gravitational momentum? Then you say, I don't know. This is called what? Simple ignorance. Like, if you don't even conceptualize, I say to you, now, what is gravitational momentum? Then you say, I don't know even what that is. This is called what? Simple ignorance. So then, simple ignorance will include both. That it could be that you don't even conceptualize, let alone that you will give judgment or ruling. It could be also that you don't even, that you conceptualize but without giving judgment. In both cases, this is called simple ignorance. Like, we have a type of ignorance, which is the second one, is that person believes he knows, while reality denies it, negates it. So he will realize things not the way that they are. So either that he will conceptualize things differently than the way they are, or that he will conceptualize them the way that they are, but he won't give judgment. Okay? يعني correct judgment. How is it correct? It means that it matches reality. If it does not match reality, then this is called compound ignorance. Okay? It's compound ignorance. Jahlun murakkab. Why? Because he thinks he knows while he does not. So he is committing two problems. The first problem is that he believes that he knows. Okay? The second problem is that which he believes that he knows does not match reality. So he has two problems. Those people usually have what we call a shubha. Shubha. They believe that they know while in reality they are not. So then now, in order to tackle the problem of those people, what to do? You need first of all to convince them you're wrong. And secondly, you point to them that which is right. Correct. عرفت؟ ولهذا those people sometimes a lot of people that they feel that those people are stubborn. Why they are stubborn? Because they believe that they are right. That's why. It should be also mentioned, ya ikhwan, that sometimes if you even go deeper, the way they come to their conclusions, and the way that they believe in what they believe in, and the way that they believe and the way that they got it wrong. If you'd like sometimes to go and fix it, you see what we call the patterns of thinking, how they think. Sometimes if you just change the patterns of how they think, automatically their rulings, their judgments will be changed. Automatically. ولهذا sometimes when you engage in discussions, when you go with your children to tell them about things, sometimes you don't try to convince them by evidences, because every time you present the evidence, they look at it from an angle that prevents them to take it the way that it is. So then what do? You change their patterns of thinking. To make them look at it from different angle. Then automatically they will understand what you're saying. واضح؟ فهذا مهم جدا يا اخوة، مهم جدا. ولهذا sometimes psychiatrists, what do? They have a type of therapy. They call it العلاج المعرفي السلوكي. العلاج المعرفي السلوكي. They don't give you medicines. They don't give you drugs. What do they give you? Nothing. They will just sit with you. Okay? And they will listen to you. They realize how you think. They will sit 3 times, 4 times, until the moment that they realize how you think. Let's suppose that there is a person who lives with a depression. اكتئاب. What do? Okay, they will sit twice, 3 times. Then they will try their best to change the way that person looks at things. He will look at the same reality, but he will look at it differently. Then he will change, even without giving him one medicine, one habda. What is a habda? A pill. Not even one. He will change completely. He will be transformed. How? The way of thinking. They call it usually the patterns of thinking. أنماط التفكير. Call them أنماط التفكير. طيب. So then now, alhamdulillah, you understand the meaning of ignorance. So then, what is ignorance? It's the conceptualization, okay, or realization of reality, not the way that it is. Not the way that it is. طيب. And then, if it is simple ignorance, if he just simply does not know. It is compound ignorance if he thinks he knows. Okay? If he thinks he knows. This is called compound ignorance. Compound because you have 2 components of it. That's why it is called compound ignorance. هل هذا واضح إن شاء الله؟ واضح؟ الحمد لله. Then because he mentioned العلم, and look, by the way, look, knowledge, just for a short discussion here. Knowledge, the ulama differed is it definable or undefinable? We have some ulama argue that it's undefinable. Why? They say that because it is difficult. Some ulama say that, well, it is not difficult. It's because of its necessity. Knowledge is knowledge because it is necessary knowledge. It is necessarily definable. It is necessary. You don't need to define it. ضروري يقولون. هذا العلم ضروري. Now, what is this type of knowledge that we're talking about? They say that we're talking about the created knowledge. The knowledge of the created, as opposed to the knowledge of the creator. واضح؟ هذا علم المخلوق ليس علم الخالق عز وجل. So then the discussion of knowledge that we are going back and forth with is related to the created knowledge, not to the eternal knowledge. واضح? Now, now he went on to talk about al-ilm al-daruri. So then when he's talking about al-ilm here, al-ilm al-daruri, the necessary knowledge, he's talking about the type of the created knowledge. So these classifications that he's given here are related to the knowledge that is created knowledge. You find, these are big issues. You'll find some theologians, okay, some mutakallimun. They will argue that Allah's knowledge Azza wa Jal is, they won't say that there is acquired, but they say that it's because of evidence. How? They say that, is it possible to have the knowledge without a cause? Even if you say that it's a self-attribute of Allah Azza wa Jal, but for it to be possessed as self-attribute, you need you need the knower for knowledge to be possessed, right? It cannot exist separated from the knower. So therefore, could it be possible that the knowledge itself be happening without a thing being known? They say that no, it could not be possible. Therefore, Allah's knowledge Azza wa Jal is based upon evidence. من باب أن ما هو الدليل؟ الدليل هو علة للمدلول. So they say that the effective cause for the knowledge to happen is something to be known. For the knowledge to happen, you need an effective cause for it. So therefore, they say that Allah's Azza wa Jal knowledge is علة لمعلوم. ولهذا they say that علم الله عز وجل عن دليل. Ibn Muflih في كتابه Usool Ul Fiqh, he mentioned this opinion and he was silent. He didn't go to deny. The point is what? That the knowledge that we're talking about here, this classification that he's given you is related to the knowledge that is created. Al-ilm al-makhluq and ilm al-makhluq. He said, العلم والعلم الضروري ما لم يقع عن نظر المستدلال كالعلم الواقع بإحدى الحواس الخمس التي هي السمع والبصر والشم والذوق واللمس أو التواتر. He said, unavoidable knowledge is what does not result from reflection or inference, such as knowledge of reality by one of the five senses, which are hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, and touching, or by unanimous reports, al-mutawatir. Not a good translation, actually. He began good, but he began deteriorating. Okay? He said unavoidable knowledge. This is called necessary. Actually, you have it in English, you don't need that much effort. It's called necessary knowledge. Now, al-ilm is either to be necessary or to be unnecessary. Okay? Necessary knowledge or to be unnecessary. Also, knowledge is either to be axiomatic, badihi, or unaxiomatic. Okay? Now, you see, unavoidable knowledge is what does not result from reflection or inference. ما لم يقع عن نظر واستدلال. He said that العلم الضروري, the necessary knowledge, is that which does not happen because of reflection or inference. نظر or استدلال. نظر يعني reflection. استدلال meaning it means inference, to infer from something. Like, this is not accurate actually. This is not the meaning of what we call ضروري. Now, what is a ضروري يا إخوة? يعني properly put. This is a translation of it, but what it is, what do we mean by necessary? The necessity of knowledge happens in the case that you cannot deny it. Okay? Meaning that in terms of you cannot deny. You can appear to deny, but in reality you cannot deny. Yeah, for example, you are 100% sure that مثلا one of your parents died. A lot of people that they will have a state of what? Denial. But in reality, for them, they cannot deny. Okay? This is called what? Necessary knowledge. واضح هذا يا إخوة؟ يعني هو الذي يقول العلماء هو الذي إذا تصورته لم يمكن كتفه. The moment that you have a conceptualization of it, you cannot deny it. This is called ضروري. And it has two levels. Sometimes it just that it will be ضروري immediately. It will happen immediately to you. Sometimes it will begin unnecessary, but through processes of reflection and inference, it will end up to be necessary. منه ما يبتدئ ضروريا ومنه ما يبتدئ نظري ثم يؤول فيكون ضروري. Okay? So then this is the meaning of what we call what? Necessary. طيب ما هو البدهي is the thing that he defined to be ضروري. We have knowledge called العلم البدهي. Look here, do you believe in priorities? القبليات. Because these are all related to it, to the mind. Look, we have two types of priorities. We have rational priorities and we have innate priorities. Now we're talking about the rational priorities. Do you believe in them? We are born with believing in things, knowing things by our reason. The answer is no. We don't have priorities, meaning rational priorities. We have innate priorities, but we don't have rational priorities. What's the evidence? قال تعالى والله أخرجكم من بطون أمهاتكم لا تعلمون شيئا. Okay? طيب, but we just say that we have priorities innately. Because he said, مَا مِن مَوْلُودٍ إِلَّا وَيُولَدُ عَلَى الْفِطْرَةِ. So then we specify from this generality. So then we have priorities that are innate, but we don't have priorities that are rational. ما عندنا قبليات عقلية, عندنا قبليات فطرية. So you need to distinguish between البدهي and what? القبلي. So we don't believe in priorities, but we believe in axioms. البدهيات. What are البدهيات? البدهيات is that which you define to be ضروري. That you don't need reflection nor influence. It does not mean that they are inferred and reflected upon. All what it means is that you know them without inference nor reflection. This is what we call axioms. So then we have three levels. We have the level of priorities. We have a level of, we call them these al-qabliyat. Then we have a level of al-badahiyat. Then we have a level of al-daruriyat. Now, what are priorities? You are born with. Okay, you are born with. Now, we have rational priorities and we have innate priorities. We don't have rational priorities as opposed to Kant and the rest, but we have, and also the mutakallimun, they believe in priorities, okay, rational priorities, as opposed to Ahl-Sunnah. We believe that we have innate priorities. We don't have rational priorities. Okay? We don't give judgment. We don't know. Your mind is like a computer. You need data. Okay? You need input. If you have input, it will give you output. Otherwise, if you don't have input, there is no output. Now, how does your mind function? You need what? Senses. You need experience. ولهذا قال تعالى والله أخرجكم من بطون أمهاتكم لا تعلمون شيئا. How do we know? وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة. You need senses. You need input. Then your mind will begin to function, and it has two major functions. What are they? To make analogy, to move from the specific, that specific sense that you sense, that you make analogy to the things that you sense, to the things that you didn't sense, or you don't sense. The second thing is that to make what we call abstraction. Your mind has the capacity to abstract, to make things kulliyat, to move from the specific, from a juz'i, to make it kulli. Now, I don't need to see all the iPhone 16 or iPhone 17. Just they can show me a model, I see it, I smell it and touch it and so forth, and I know all what the factory would produce. واضح? In what way? In my mind. So in my mind I has hundreds of thousands of iPhones 17. Albeit I only sensed one. Okay? This is the function of the mind. So now when we're talking about priorities, we have innate priorities, but we don't have rational priorities, meaning you are born with. Priorities meaning prior to your existence, that's the meaning. Okay, that's the meaning of it. When you hear priorities, it's a Greek word. It's called priori. Prior, yes.
How are you defining the ability to prioritize?
To prioritize, this is completely different. This is only after knowing you go to prioritize. After knowing. When we talk about priorities, it's Priori. Okay, it's a Greek word. Priori. Priori meaning something that existed before you, meaning that you're born with it. That's the meaning. طيب. So then the second level that we have is what? Al-Badihiyat. Axioms. Axioms is that which he defines to be ضروري, Al-Juwayni. Axioms meaning that you don't need reflections, nor you need inference. Okay, Badihi. If you want to deny them, you can deny them, but you don't need effort. It's called Badihi. And again, Yaqwa, being Badahi, being axiomatic or not, relative to the beholder. Like the necessity, it's relative to the beholder. So then we have axioms, al-badihiyat. Then we have the third one is what? The third one is what? Al-daruriyat. Okay, necessities. What do you mean by necessities? That which, if conceptualized or realized, is undeniable. Cannot be denied. You cannot deny. And it has two levels. two degrees. One degree is that it will be like obvious, like al-badahi, مثلا. And sometimes it is not badahi, you need to do some reflections and some inferences until you get it to the level of being undeniable. Yani, I will give you an example, it's a traditional example, it's the typical example. 1 plus 1 is what? 2. If you have a long division, you know the long division? Let's suppose that, 1 billion, 1,735,000 divided by what? 100,275. Okay? مثلا, it's in terms of necessity, it's the same as 1 plus 1 equals 2. But that 1 plus 1 equals 2 is what? Obvious. Badahi. It will come the moment that you visualize it or conceptualize it, it will come. As opposed to that long division. If you have this long division, you will end up having the same necessary belief known as 1 plus 1 equals 2. But it will take time. واضح? So they are both necessary. They are both necessary in terms of you knowing. They will be the same. واضح؟ هذا الذي نعنيه بالضروري. Then he said, and he will talk about النظر and الاستدلال. He will go to define the meaning of نظر, يعني reflection, and الاستدلال, inference. He will go to talk about this. So we will leave them there. He said, كالعلم الواقع. This is called كالعلم الواقع. هذه الكاف تسمى عند we have such as in the Arabic language when you have al-kaf, we have two types of kafs, such as. يعني even in English when you say such as, you have something called التمثيلية, you have something called التنظيرية. تمثيلية يعني for example. If you say such as, sometimes it means for example. Okay, sometimes you say such as, you're not saying for example. Okay? The likes of what? The likes of. Okay? If it is such as هذه الكاف كاف التمثيلية not التنظيرية, it's like you're given examples. Okay? What is الضابط? If that thing that comes after such as al-kaf is not of the same genus that comes before such as, then it is called a tanziri. This is the like of. However, if that which comes after such as of the same thing that comes before it, then we call it tamthili. So now when he says كالعلم الواقع بإحدى الحواس الخمس, this is تمثيلية or تنظيرية? تمثيلية, for example, for instance. Okay? واضح? He said كالعلم الواقع. Now he defined it by saying as knowledge of reality by one of the five senses, meaning that it is realized through the five senses. Now, realizing, if you realize things by your senses, then they are necessary. Okay? Then they are necessary. Again, being necessary or not necessary, related to who? To you. Okay? It is related to you. But not necessarily that they will lead to the thing that we call, that it will realize things the way that they are. For example, now we see the sun in a smaller shape or form than it is. Right? طيب. So it is related to us. Suppose that we are out of Earth's hemisphere. Okay, what would happen? We will see it bigger. Okay? And so it depends on the beholder. Even if you have something that is sensed, it depends on the beholder. Okay? I mean, now when you see a person, if he is far from you, okay, you will see him differently, or smaller than if it is closer to you. The same as the sound. You know, when you hear a sound of a train, if it approaches you, every time that it's getting closer to you, the sound will be higher, louder. And the time that it goes away from you, the sound will go lighter. وهكذا. Even things that you sense them differently. That's why he sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, إني أرى ما لا ترون. حديث جابر. إني أرى ما لا ترون وإني أسمع ما لا تسمعون. أطت السماء وحق لها أن تئط. ما من موضع 4 أصابع إلا وفيها ملك قائم أو راكع ومساجد الله عز وجل. The Prophet ﷺ said, even though that he would like to be so strict with applying the rules, it will be from the statement of Mujahid. But again, Mujahid cannot just say, هذا الذي يقول مجاهد, he cannot come to that conclusion out of his pure reflection. هذا ما لا يقارب الرأي ولهذا له حكم الرفع. It says أطت السماء. أطت السماء you know the sound when you have a camel, when you have a mount on it, that mount, when the camel moves, it will have that sound. هكذا. This is called أطيب. The Prophet ﷺ said أطت السماء. The heaven has this sound. وحق لها أن تحط. The Prophet ﷺ is saying, indeed, it should be. ما فيها موضع 4 أصابع, that there are no distance of 4 fingers. But there is an angel who is standing or bowing down or prostrating to Allah Azza wa Jalla. It's filled. Now, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنِّي أَرَى مَا لَا تَرَوْنَ. I see that which you don't. I hear that which you don't. I mean, now, you know that, a fly or ant, they see, or a bee, they see, but what they see is different from your reality. They sense it, and you sense it, but they have different reality. Right? Now, which reality is the reality? Is the bee's reality the reality or your reality? You know, it said that camels, they look at they see a person much bigger than what it is. That's why they are able to lead them. Okay? There are some studies from that. Like, which reality now? Is the reality of the camel, because they sense it, or your reality? What is my reality? When I pull this off, or when I wear it? Which reality? Because now I didn't see that, clearly. Which reality? Is this my reality, or this my reality? Okay? So all this proves that reality and necessity, even by the senses, is what related to the beholder, to the observer, to the individual, okay, to the entity that is sensing. هل هذا واضح يا إخوة؟ هذا مهم جدا. ولهذا يا إخوة الضرورية, necessity or unnecessity, although that we affirm that there is reality, but these terms, necessity, unnecessity, certainty, uncertainty, this is related to the one who is sensing, who is observing, who is beholding, and so on and so forth. هل هذا واضح؟ واضح بارك الله فيك؟ الحمد لله. طيب, he said, as knowledge of reality by one of the 5 senses, which are hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, and touching. These are called the external senses. Then we have the internal senses. The internal senses are the emotions, or our emotions, sentiments. Okay, like the examples that we just gave you: angry, hungry, thirsty, jubilant, happy, hesitant, being hesitant. You feel that. That's why we say ikhwa, that knowledge, that you don't need to prove that you know. Because otherwise you will have what? Infinite regression. Yani you know that you know. Yani everybody now knows that they are here. Now, you know that. You don't need an evidence. If I say to you that, do you know, مثلا plus, 1 plus 1 is 2, then you say, yes, I know. So then you sense, you feel you know. You don't need evidence for you to say that I know. واضح يا إخوة؟ فإذا عليك أنك تفرق بين طريق المعرفة and feeling it. ولهذا المعرفة يا إخوة، المعرفة as opposed to المتكلمون theologians, they say that we believe that knowledge happens after evidence. For them it happens مع الدليل. So your knowledge does not happen after, because they don't believe in causes. So your knowledge just it happened what? Correlates. It correlates with the evidence. هل هذا واضح? So it happens afterward. Now, knowing that you know, you don't need evidence for that. Okay, now you know, or you don't. This is based upon what you feel. You feel it. You know that you know. ولهذا الإنسان يعلم أنه يعلم. You don't say, what's the evidence that you know? Because every time that I will present that evidence, we will go forever. This is for infinite regression. هذا مهم يا إخوة. طيب, if you master these and you discuss an atheist, you will be like a child. Because many of the things that they have, they are disrupted epistemologically. They have very bad understanding of reality, if they have even understanding. But how they cover that? By big words. Okay, they give you big words. But if you just leave these big words and you look for the substance, wallahi ya ikhwa, nothing. I will give you an example of a person by the name Jordan Peterson. Okay? Just put away big words. Wallahi ya ikhwa, nothing. So superficial. But in order to say very simple things, he will make it so complicated. So complicated, with big words and different, complex sentences, to make him that he is really intellectual and good thinker. And this is his age, because we live in an age of stupidity. That's why he is so attractive. Why, wallahi ikhwan, just put these words, you can record them, put these words away, and look at the substance. You will be left with nothing. You will be left with nothing. Literally, and I mean every word that I say, because I did it myself. Nothing is there. ما في شيء. Let alone, contradictions, paradoxes, and so on and so forth. No, I'm talking about the material themselves, okay? The substance, the content. No content even to analyze. Okay? Just, simple ideas, so simple, with complex sentences and big words. So that you think that, well, he's intellectual. والله ما في شيء. Literally, والله ما في شيء. So then the thing is that it's not about and you need to focus on the substance. Okay, and you adopt the skill of criticism, whereby you will be able to discern that which is substantial and that which is not, or substantive, that which is not. هذا مهم جدا. طيب, he said, and he gave another example. He said التواتر. Okay, التواتر he translated so badly, unanimous reports. No, it's a frequent reports, frequent narrations. Okay, meaning when we're talking about narrations, definitely we're talking about transmission. So if we have multiple transmissions that they are so frequent, then we call them tawatur. But we have even a particular definition of it. ولهذا التواتر, when we will talk about, and we'll be talking about inshallah, we'll talk about al-akhbar. But here, just to fit our purposes here, it says, when we define التواتر, we say that ما رواه جماعة عن جماعة بحيث يستحيل في العادة تواطؤهم على الكذب ويحيلوه إلى حس أو ويحيلونه إلى حس. We say that which is transmitted, reported, narrated by Jama'ah, group. Now, what is the number of these? A huge discussion, lengthy discussion. But it's a group. Reporting it from another group in the way that is impossible to come together to lie. It's impossible for that to happen. And they were related to something that is sensible. Yani the source of the narration, the report, the transmission is something sensible. In that case, we call that type of transmission frequent, mutawatir. Okay, it's with multiplicity. Anybody here believes that there is a country called Tajikistan? You believe in that? Why?
Seeing it on the map.
Maybe you just said it, you just saw it on the map. Maybe they lied to you. It's fabricated map. Yeah, because it's known by frequent narrations. Everybody is saying that. Okay? Everybody. Let's suppose that you saw مثلا, at least 20 people who came from Tajikistan. And you hear the news talking about Tajikistan. You hear, you see maps, hundreds of maps. Okay? So then, in a way that is impossible that all those will come together to lie. It's impossible to lie. Okay? But it should be mentioned here. It could be possible that people will come together, believe in things in flux, based on what? Imitation, taqleed. So then, if there is no possibility of imitation, and there is no possibility of lying, then we call that type of narration tawatur, and we'll be elaborating on this inshallah when we come to al-akhbar. Okay, so that type of knowledge is what? At-tawatur. We call it frequent testimonial evidence. In actuality, more than 95% of what you know is what? Testimonial. More than 95% of what you believe in is what? Testimonial. You've been told. Okay? Did you experience every knowledge that you have? Or because it is told to you? Huh? Which one? How old are you? How do you know? Yeah, you were told. You were told. You were born at that year. That's what you've been told. Okay, your parents. How do you know that those are your parents? How do you know? You say, well, I look like them, I have a DNA, but did you do it yourself? You go to a laboratory and they will do it for you. And they will tell you. Even if you do it for yourself, how many people they do it? It's 0.00001% of the world population that they will do it. So we know, majority of what we know, absolute majority of what we know is based upon what? Testimony. Okay? Much of the things that you studied in university, especially if you are, bachelor degree or even a master degree, much of the things that they will teach you, that you know about them, not because you did the experiment yourself. It's only because of what? You told. They give you a textbook, you study it, you go to the lab to implement that which you've been told, and then they will give you a certificate. That's why you know. So much of what you know is testimonial. So anybody who denies the evidence of testimony, they are denying more than 95% of what they know. If you meet an atheist and you say that I believe in evolution, say why? Say because I believe in science. Okay. Do you have evidence for it? Meaning that did you go yourself and you do the experiment? The answer is no, not even him. Even the majority of scientists, they didn't even do it. If you ask the majority of scientists even how the process of evolution works, they don't believe it. Let's say that it's proven scientifically. So then the point is that the frequent narrations or the way things are transmitted frequently is actually the majority of what we know. Okay? There will be a level that is so frequent, not solitary narrations, if they are transmitted to us frequently, then we call that type of knowledge what? Necessary. Necessary meaning that you cannot deny. That's the point. Anybody here denies that there is a war in Gaza? في غزة الآن. Anybody denies that? How do you know? Everybody is saying that. Okay? Everybody. Does Al-Doha have an airport? How do you know that? Narrations, because you've been told. And everybody's saying that. The news, I see tickets and so on and so forth. A lot of people that they come from. This is how we know things. This is how we know things. واضح يا إخوة؟ نعم. نبدأ 40. Well, we don't cover that much. What do you think? Don't you think that if we just مثلا finish these, الأشياء so that we won't come back to them? Okay, so then he gave two examples. He gave two examples of that thing which we call necessary knowledge. So then you are, bihamdillah, now familiar with what we call necessary knowledge, and you know the levels of the necessity. Then he said, وَأَمَّا الْعِلْمُ الْمُكْتَسَبُ فهو الموقوف على النظر والاستدلال والنظر هو الفكر في حال النظر فيه والاستدلال طلب الدليل والدليل هو المرشد المطلوب لأنه علامة عليه. Okay. It is translated more or less. He said, as for acquired knowledge. Now, العلم المكتسب يعني it is yes, the acquired knowledge. Okay? It's the acquired knowledge. It is dependent upon reflection and inference. He said, reflection is thought upon the situation under reflection. Inference is seeking an indication. An indication guides to what is thought as it points to it. Okay, طيب. He says, العلم المكتسب. You can call it the unnecessary knowledge. Again, it could develop to be necessary, but the beginning of it is what? Unnecessary. It says, as for acquired knowledge, it is dependent upon reflection and inference. الموقوف على النظر والاستدلال. That is dependent. That for it to be acquired, you need reflection, you need another, and you need inference. Inference means istidlal. He said, reflection is thought upon the situation and the reflection. Now he is good. He goes to define reflection. Okay, what do you mean by another? Look, linguistically speaking, another has three meanings. The first meaning of it is what he is alluding to. Another meaning to reflect. Okay, تأمل, to ponder over, to reflect. The second meaning is that أن ينظر بعينه, to see, to look. Like in English, you can see, I see, مثلا I give you an opinion, you say, I see. And you can see, I see the tree. It does not mean that I have an opinion about it. So I see it by my eyes. Okay? The third meaning, and look here, if الفعل نظر, okay, to see in the Arabic language is transmitted by the harf, by the proposition that is ila. It only means to see by your eyes. ولهذا قال الله تعالى وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة. So if you say in the Arabic language نظرت إليك, it's only by what? By your eyes. It cannot mean that you ponder over, reflect on, and so on and so forth. Okay? The third meaning of the Arabic language of nadara means to wait. Translated to mean wait, intadar. It's like when Allah Azza wa says هل ينظرون إلا أن يأتيهم الله في ظلال في ظل من الغمام. يعني هل ينتظرون. Okay? نظرته يعني I waited for him. Okay? Now, which one he's talking about? He talks about pondering, reflecting, وهكذا. He went to define reflection. He said that it's thought upon والفكر, upon the situation and the reflection. So then he defines another by a thought, الفكر. What do you mean by الفكر يا أخوان? When we talk about الفكر, they mean something in particular. When they say الفكر هو الانتقال من المعلوم من غير المعلوم من المعلوم إلى غير المعلوم. In their, يعني they say that we move from the known to the unknown, meaning that we have something we don't know. We think about that which we know, that will produce, and it is conducive to knowing that which we don't know. This is what we call al-fikr. If you are a thinker, okay? ولهذا تجد أن علماء الأصول يقولون هو الانتقال من المبادئ إلى المطالب والرجوع منها إليها. This is how they usually define. Well, simply put, الانتقال من المعلوم إلى غير المعلوم. That you move from that which is known to a thing that which is not known. يعني you know. يعني by utilizing things which you know, you will know that which you don't know. Simply, يعني put, this is the way that we mean that you have reflection. So if I ask you to reflect on something, what does that mean? You think about the things which you already know that would lead you to know things which you don't know. This is the meaning of reflection. هل هذا واضح يا إخوة? Is that clear? Clear? Okay? So then, when we're talking about another reflection, هو الفكر في حال المنظور. Meaning that you look at a thing which you know in order to read something which you don't know. Okay? This is called reflection. هذا هو الفكر. هذا هو النظر. He said, what is istidlal? Now he's talking about inference. He said, inference is seeking an indication. Okay? الاستدلال طلب الدليل. Now he's saying that what is الاستدلال? He said طلب الدليل. Seeking evidence, actually. Seeking evidence. When we're talking about al-istidlal, it's to seek evidence. And this has two ways. Either that you yourself seek the evidence to use it, or someone else asks you for evidence. In both cases, this is called istidlal, inference. So you can infer for yourself, or you can infer because you are asked. In both cases, this is called istidlal. هذا هو الاستدلال. الاستدلال يعني طلب الدليل, because the seen والتاء in the Arabic language is to ask, to request. Okay? So that's why we say this is the al-istidlal. He said, inference is seeking an indication, meaning evidence. An indication guides to what is sought as it points to. He said, والدليل هو المرشد إلى المطلوب لأنه علامة عليه. Now, he's saying what dalil? Now, what is evidence? He said evidence that would, he said guides, leads to al-matlub, to that which you are looking for. This is what we mean by evidence, al-murshid al-matlub. But this is the definition of the evidence in general, not specifically. Now, ولما نصلي يا عبد الله, then we continue. Do we? باقي 10. طيب الحمد لله. So we still have time. So then, when we talk about evidence, it is important to know the nature of what we call evidence. Okay? Now, look, there is the signification, the denotation of a thing, based on which we call that thing evidence. Okay? Now, what is the relationship between a thing that we call evidence and a thing that it denotes, it signifies? Do you understand what I'm saying? In what sense we build a connection between a thing and another thing, whereby that thing A will be an evidence for B? Why would A be an evidence for B?
Because this leads to be all time.
And that which we call al-luzum. Okay, the nature of evidence is that which we call al-luzum. Al-luzum, entailment. In English language, it is translated as entailment. If that thing entails, if A entails B, it means that A is evidence for B. واضح؟ طيب. For it to be evidence, it means that it's equal to B, meaning the evidentiality of it, the way that it denotes, it equals to it or specific. If it denotes it and it denotes other things, it does not mean that it is evidence for it, because it does not entail it. As opposed to the entailed thing. The entailed thing, B, is equal to A and broader than it. Because not necessarily that you will find A to denote B. It could be C denoting B. واضح؟ يا إخوة, when we talk about evidence, the general meaning of it, that which leads to something else. ما أرشد إلى مطلوب. This is the meaning of it in the Arabic language. Okay? If you see a sign in the street, this is called what? Evidence. Because it leads you to something you're looking for. طيب? But if you dig deeper a little bit, why does that sign lead to that? Why does it require me? Why does it lead me to that thing that I'm looking for? Why? It's only because there is entailment. Yes, if we'd like even to talk a little bit about the entailment, the entailment could be what? Rational. Sometimes it is linguistic. Sometimes it is customarily. Okay? It only entails, مثلا, if you enter the masjid, where you are supposed to put your shoes? Where? Huh? And what? Yeah. Why? From where did this entailment happen? From where do you get this entailment? Why does it happen that if you enter the masjid, you put your shoes in that place? It's customarily, okay? It's something that is not linguistic, not because the language entails it, not because your mind entails it. Your mind said that, okay, if you put it in your, wear, in your dress, there is nothing that your mind will hinder it to be. But it's only because لا customs, not about culture. Customs. Okay? هذه دلالة عرفية. Okay? We call it customary entailment. Because we have three types of entailment: linguistic entailment, rational entailment, and customary entailment. But if you dig deeper, they all will go where? To the rational. They will go to the rational. Do we have time to?
Yeah, 6 minutes. 43.
43? Okay. So, يعني hopefully, inshallah, you are on a track. So then, again, why does A lead to B? It's only because there is entailment. This entailment is either to be linguistic or rational, linguistic, rational, or customary. All these, yeah, the customary and linguistic, will return back to rational. Okay? Now, the evidence is equal or specific to the evidenced. As opposed to the evidenced, it's either equal or more general. Okay? To the evidence. واضح؟ هذا هو الذي نعنيه بقولنا طبيعة الدليل. Okay, the nature of evidence. That's the meaning of what we mean evidence. So when someone comes to you, say, what's the evidence? I can guarantee you that more than 90% of people, they don't even understand the meaning of evidence. And even if you give them something and you call it evidence, while it does not entail, they will take it. Because they don't understand the nature of evidence. It's the entailment. Some of it is innate. Some of it is trained. You need to be trained to understand how things يعني move on. ولهذا ابن تيمية رحمه الله يقول والعقل الصريح قليل في بني آدم. Explicit rationality amongst the son of Adam is rare. يعني people, if you take them seriously in conversations and you take things that you want them to and you want to converse rationally, you'll be in trouble. You'll be isolated. You will end up alone. It's very difficult because people are not. People are rational actors, but there are a lot of factors that will affect the way people be rational. Their emotions, they don't give it time. You know, yeah, they're you know these so-called logical fallacies. Logical fallacies. This is exactly what we're talking about. Okay, يعني people when they converse, you'll find a lot of illogicalities, a lot of falsehoods. لكن المهم يا إخوة أنت you understand the nature of what we call evidence. طيب, what is evidence for علماء الأصول? Do we still have time, Abdullah? Okay, so then what does evidence mean for علماء الأصول? They say ما يمكن التوصل بصحيح النظر فيه إلى مطلوب. Sometimes they say مطلوب خبري. Sometimes they say مطلوب شرعي. Okay? Now, again, what is evidence juristically or terminologically? Not the nature of evidence. What do the people of ulama Usool Ul Fiqh, the scholars of Usool Ul Fiqh, mean when they say evidence? What do they mean? They say that which possible, if reflected on, you will infer مطلوب خبري, شرعي cause. Okay, that which, if reflected on, that which possible, if you reflect upon, you infer a شرعي cause, a شرعي ruling, a shar'i demand, and so on and so forth. Is that clear? Now, what do you mean by that? We say that which possible. Possible. So it does not mean that everybody who reflect, will get to know. But that the evidence has the possibility. That statement has the possibility, if reflected on, will lead you to the conclusion, shar'i conclusion. Okay, so then it is possible. Not everybody will look at the same evidence and they will come to the conclusion, but it has the possibility. That's why we say that ما يمكن التوصل. We say ما يمكن التوصل بصحيح النظر فيه. Okay, with the proper reflection, not any type of reflection. We say that proper reflection. Now, what do we mean by proper reflection? This is what Usool Ul Fiqh is talking about. To give you the tools, the mechanisms to achieve and to reach and to implement proper look at the evidence. So when we look at the evidence, we don't look at it arbitrarily. You look at the evidence based on the correct ways. So this is what Usool Ul Fiqh is all about. In order to equip you with the tools, mechanisms, ways, systematic implementations which would enable you to use the evidences correctly. ما يمكن التوصل بصحيح النظر فيه إلى مطلوب, to a shar'i conclusion. Okay, this is the meaning of علم أصول الفقه. Again, when we're talking about istidlal or signification, denotation, then we're talking about the two types of them. It's either that you will seek the evidence to prove what you are about to prove, the subject matter at hand, or that you are requested the evidence, you are asked the evidence. In both cases, we call this what? Istidlal. This is called istidlal. Now, again, the evidence, when we say that we have evidence, the general meaning of it is what? ما أرشد المطلوب, that which leads to the requested, that which leads to the conclusion. This is called evidence. طيب. What is the characteristic or property of what's the nature of evidence? Why is it evidence? Why is it called evidence? If there is entailment. Okay? Now, in the process of entailment, that the evidence or the entailing thing, which is the evidence, is equal to the entailed thing or specific to it, but it could not be general to it. As opposed to the entailed thing, it is equal to the entailing or general. Simply put, that if A is not consistently entailing B, it means there is not evidence for it. As opposed to B, it could be the case that A wouldn't entail or wouldn't entail B, but you have C that would entail B, for example. So you are not only restricted to A to denote B. Okay, that's the meaning of the generality of the entailing or the generality of the entailed, and the specificity of the entailing and the specificity of the entailed. طيب, for the scholars of ulama al-usul, when they are talking about evidence, what do they mean? Again, ما يمكن التوصل بصحيح النظر فيه إلى مطلوب, that which is possible by utilizing it properly, in a correct way, to come to a conclusion or to a shar'i conclusion, to a juristic conclusion. This is the meaning of the evidence according to them. So then again, if we say that which is possible, what does that mean? That you don't have a necessity that everybody looking at that subject matter would have the entailment, but has the possibility. So the characteristic or the property of the juristic evidence is that it is not necessarily that every possible person, even if he is competent, that who looked at that subject matter would have this entailment, will know the entailment, but it has the capacity, it has the possibility. If you have a subject matter, when looked at, when reflected on, does not have the possibility of moving on to the conclusion, then we don't call that evidence. It's not a juristic evidence. Okay? Now, when we say by a proper way, that when looked at, that has the possibility when looked at or when utilized effectively or in a proper way, in a correct way. What do you mean by the correct way? What is the correct way? Meaning, what Usool Al Fiqh deals with based on the axioms, ways, implementations, systems, methods that are structured, built on in this science that we call Usool Al Fiqh. يعني we have things that are called مثلا, we have things called دلالات الألفاظ, the significations of linguistic utterances and the conditions for the significations. مثل الكلام, الأمر, النهي, العام, الخاص. يعني مثلا, you know the general, how it is specified. يعني the general statement, how it is specified. I will give you an example in order to put you into a picture. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا. Allah Ta'ala يقول والمطلقات يتربصن بأنفسهن ثلاثة قروء. That divorced women who still have menstruations, when they are divorced, they will have a period. They will have a period of wait until three periods. Okay? Like, is that including every woman? Okay? Who would be excluded? Now we have this general statement that would include every woman who has menstruation, who is in the capacity of menstruation. Right? Like, is that statement general? Yes. Does it have any specification? Yes. In what case? No. No, we're talking about divorce, not dead.
The one who's divorced.
Here, by the way, in the states it differs from a state to a state. Some states that they will give you a month, 2 months, 3 months. Some states will give you a year. They can't finalize the process until you wait a year in order to make sure that, are you sure you want to divorce? So it depends. By the way, what is the state that has the highest level of divorce? Nevada. What is the religious denomination that has the highest level of rates in the United States? You're not only talking about Christianity in general, the denomination. Evangelical. That's what the statistics say. That they are the most divorced community in the United States, not in the whole world, in the United States. But in terms of countries, what is the lowest rate of divorce globally? In Gaza and the West Bank. Then Egypt, then Philippines. Because they are Catholics and they stick to it. Because if you are Catholic, it's only one shot. That's it. And they stick to it. They are serious about it. And they make the religious marriage as what they call the civil marriage. They are the same. Anyways, so then if you have a divorce, if a woman is divorced and she's still menstruating, and she is in the age of menstruating, okay? Now, there is a case that a woman is excluded from this general statement. When is that?
She's pregnant.
No, we're not talking. If she is pregnant, she has a different iddah. Now, she is a woman who is menstruating, but she won't wait for 3 quru. What?
Menopause?
What?
Menopause?
If in the case that the husband does not have dukhul, meaning that they were not alone together. Let's suppose that they have completed the marriage but without being alone together. In that case, if he divorces her, now she won't stay for the 3 periods. Why we come to this conclusion? How do we come to this conclusion? Because Allah said in Surah Al-Ahzab, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا طلقتم النساء من قبل أن تمسوهن فما لكم عليهن من عدة تعتدونها. Oh, you have believed. If you divorce women before you touch them, meaning before you are alone, there is no khalwa, then you don't have any iddah, wait period, for them that will happen. It means that the marriage immediately is finalized. Okay? The point is that how do we come to this conclusion? Now we have the general statement and you know how to specify it. You know, you have the abrogation, okay? The abrogator, the abrogated. You have the unrestricted statement, and you have a restricted statement, al-mutlaq and al-muqayyid, and so on and so forth. You have a command and prohibition. What does the command mean? Does it mean obligation or preferability? When you have prohibition, does it mean, when you have negation or no command, prohibition, does it mean abstaining mandatorily or abstaining preferably? How do we know that? When you look at the evidence, you need mechanisms, you need procedures, you need systems. Not you look at the evidence arbitrarily. Okay, you don't come to interpret the law by your emotions, arbitrary choices. There is a system. It's called exegesis. Okay, you need to interpret the law based on, you need to interpret Sharia legislation. You need to interpret it in what way? In what way? Systematically, okay, methodologically. That you have a system, you need a kit. Okay, you can't just go to the lab without having the kit and you would like to be a chemist method. You need the tools. So, like if you go to the lab of interpreting text, you don't just come to the text and you're like, well, I read the Quran, I read the hadith, and you will come to the conclusion. No, it does not work like that. No, there is a process, there is a particular understanding. Because the Quran, bihamdillah, as well as the Sunnah, they are not only preserved in terms of the textual transmission, but also their understanding. We are handed over both the text and its understanding. Either that we have the specification of the understanding, or we have the tools, the methods, the systems, based on which we will come to the conclusion in terms of understanding. So then, when we talk about proper utilization, we're talking about the tools, methods that would be utilized in order to come to the conclusion. That's why we say ما يمكن التوصل بصحيح النظر فيه إلى مطلوب, to the requested conclusion. واضح؟ طيب. Now, if we look at evidences, there are multiple ways of considerations or classifications. Evidences are either to be categorical or uncategorical. Evidences are either to be transmitted, narrational, or reasonable, rational. Okay? Evidences could be looked at in terms of being unanimously agreed on, consensually accepted, or to be disputed. So then again, now, if we want to list the Shari'i evidences, okay, what the jurists utilize in order to come to the conclusion, okay, who would list them here? Because a lot of people that they, what do you call them? Not auditory, what do you call the visual? You don't have a marker. Okay? To refresh you. It's 9:30 now, and some people are either hungry and sleepy or one of them. I was once invited by a new Muslim, Jazakallahu khairah. He was a Vietnamese brother. He invited me, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah, at around 7:30. So I went to his house, and we were alone actually. And while I was sitting, he didn't even give me 1 cup of water. One cup of water, just a cup of water, not even a bottle. It will cost him. Just a cup of water, even from the faucet. So when I was about to leave, I said to him, "Ya akhi, now you are a new Muslim, bihamdillah." And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir, falyukrim dayfahu." The one who believes in Allah and the Day of Judgment should be generous to his guest. This is reported of Sahihain, Bukhari and Muslim, Hadith Abu Hurairah. So he said that, look, in our culture, in South Asian cultures, we don't eat anything after 7. That's it. We don't eat anything. So he said that when I invited you, that's why I don't give you anything. I said, but alhamdulillah, you are now Muslim, and now you need to change a little bit. And just a cup of water. Or at least to say that, do you want a cup of water? At least. Some people that if it is 9:30 now, they are hungry because this is how they spend their days. Or this is the way that they are raised. Anyway, so if we go over the evidences, now we have Quran. If you please can write. Okay. If we want to count the evidences, just now we want to list them, then we will apply these classifications that we just pointed out to you. So now, what is the first one? Quran. Okay. Say Quran or Quran. Quran. Say Quran. Yeah, do you find it difficult to say Quran? Do you find it difficult to say Quran for those native English speakers? Do you find it difficult to say Quran? Because people say Quran, but it is Quran. Quran. Anyway, so we have Quran. The second, Sunnah. Okay, Sunnah. Third, Ijma'. Okay, consensual, unanimity, consensus. Unanimity or consensus. The fourth one is Qiyas. Analogy. Okay, Qiyas or analogy or reasonable conclusions. Qiyas, analogy. Okay, fifth. Opinion of a companion or statement of a companion. Okay? Statement of a companion. قول الصحابة. Sixthly, استحسان, juristic preference. Okay? Juristic preference. What else? أي نعم, شرع من قبلنا. Legislation of people prior to us, meaning prior to Islam. Okay, legislation prior to Islam. Go it. شرع من قبلنا. Okay, revelation prior to Islam. This one. طيب, seventhly, عمل أهل المدينة. Okay, the action of the people of Al-Medina. Actions of Medina people. Ninth,
This is hard.
al-istishab, presumption of continuity. Presumption of continuity. No, this is in a sunnah because al-urf, customs.
For 9?
No, or 10. Customs. المصالح المرسلة, unrestricted public interest. This is 11th. Okay. سد الذريعة, hindrance of means. 12th, hindrance of means. Okay. المصالح المرسلة, استصحاب شرع من قبلنا, قول الصحابي. لا, خل هذا. طيب, those are enough. Now, if we want to classify these evidences in terms of the three classifications that we mentioned, okay, if we have to look at them from, we would reckon them, consider them into these three classifications: categoriality and uncategoriality, unanimity and ununanimity, and transmitted or rational. Yeah, let's begin with the first one. Uncategorical and categorical. Okay. Look, when we talk about categoriality, يعني certainty and uncertainty, we have 4 categories. Okay? If we have definitive and indefinitive, we have 4 categories. It's either 4 categories. First, it's categorical evidence, okay, in terms of it being evidence, okay, and in terms of it being evidence and what it denotes. Meaning the evidence is definitive as being evidence, and it's definitive in what it denotes. نقول نحن باللغة العربية نقول قطعي الثبوت قطعي الدلالة. Okay? That it's categorical in terms of it being evidence, and categorical in terms of being what it denotes, what it leads to, what it alludes to, what it signifies, and so on and so forth. Okay? هذا نسميه قطعي الثبوت قطعي الدلالة. Now, what is the first one would be? The Quran. The Quran is what? قطعي الثبوت قطعي الدلالة. Could be. The Sunnah could be قطعي الثبوت قطعي الدلالة. Okay? As opposed to, as well as إجماع. إجماع is قطعي الثبوت. Because even when we have ijma', sometimes we have ijma' that is categorical, because there are 2 ways of ijma'. There is reported ijma', there is a consensus of silence. If we have a consensually if we have a silence, meaning that there is no reported discussions or disputes about a particular issue, then we call that type of ijma' is what? Sukuti. Silenced ijma'. Okay? Now, in that sense, or unreported ijma'. Now, the silenced ijma' is uncategorical. Albeit, it denotes something categorical. So then the categoriality and the uncategoriality will be looked at in this typology. You look at these categories, either to be categorically being evidence and categorically being evidencing or leading to, denoting, signifying, or to be categorically evidence but uncategorically signifying, or to be categorically being evidence but unsignifying uncategorically, or to be both uncategorically being evidence and uncategorically signifying. هل هذا واضح؟ Clear إن شاء الله؟ طيب, so then this is the first one. Now we have Quran is what? Categorical. Sunnah is categorical. Ijma is categorical. The rest is what? Uncategorical. Okay? And look, uncategoriality differs. The same as categoriality. Okay? يعني مثلا your categoriality of knowing what you wear now is not the same as your categoriality about the amount in your bank account now, right? Are you certain about the amount of your bank account now? Could be, but it's not the same. That's why you're thinking. But you won't think for a moment about what you're wearing. Okay? So then you have different layers of categoriality. The same as for uncategoriality, uncertainty. It has also levels. Okay? Yani you are certain about things you see, not as much as things you hear about. Although what you know about hearing or from hearing is way wider than the things that you know by seeing. Okay? Much of the things you are certain about, you know about them because of your hearing, compared to the things that you're certain about because you saw them. Okay? Anyways, طيب. Then we have qiyas and طيب. The other classification that we talked about is what? The other reckoning, consideration, is in terms of being consensually agreed upon or disputed. Okay? Now, the Quran is consensually agreed. Okay? Yeah, unanimously agreed on. Sunnah is the same. Even, Shia, Khawarij, okay, Mu'tazila, they all agree that the Sunnah is Hujjah. We call it authority. This is unanimously agreed upon. But you will have those deviative groups who don't go along with the understanding of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Those people, they will have some sort of what they manufacture to be Sunnah. But they agree that the Sunnah is authority, that the Prophet ﷺ is authority. That he has an authority. Okay? So a Sunnah is unanimously agreed upon to be authority, to be evidence. The same as Ijma'. You can report Ijma' because those who will differ, you have Al-Nizam amongst the Mu'tazila, not all of Mu'tazila, Al-Nizam and the people of Al-Nizamiyya, and you have also some sort of Khawarij. They didn't go along with it. But now we have unanimous agreement that Al-Ijma' is what? Hujjah, but it should be mentioned. And it's so noteworthy that establishing Ijma' is what? Difficult. To the extent that Imam Ahmad rahimahullah opined that establishing Ijma' in reality happened only during the time of the Sahaba. While after the Sahaba, he said that I don't know of any Ijma' that happened after the Sahaba. Although he said that it's possible. So there is a difference between Ijma' happening in reality and there is Ijma' happening with possibility or in impossibility. Okay? But once Ijma' is established, and we'll be talking about it inshallah, once it is established, it is what? Hujjah. Okay? So these three are what? Unanimously agreed upon. What about Qiyas? It has a weak dispute. Who would differ? Tahiriyya and some people of Al-Ja'fariyya min al-Shia. Okay? they will disagree with al-qiyas. But it should be also noted, and it's so noteworthy, that everybody agrees that when we have the text, understanding its implementation is قياس. Okay? اللي يسمى مفهوم الخطاب، فحوى الخطاب. Okay? يعني now, we could agree on the understanding, right? But where is the difference? Or where would the difference be? Is when we disagree on the implementation. We agree on the text, we agree on its understanding, but the difficulty is how to implement. Is the case, is the subject matter, the case at hand, that particular qiyas is implementable, that particular text is implementable to it or not? So then, qiyas in terms of fahwa al-khitab, mafhum al-khitab, is agreed upon. Okay? Meaning that for the implementation of the evidence, you need qiyas. Because in order to build the connection between the text and the case, you need qiyas, definitely. Okay? That you will make ijtihad. This is agreed upon. This is unanimously agreed upon. The qiyas that is disputed is the qiyas whereby we have a branch, يعني an issue, a new issue, and you have an already established issue, whereby you will build the connection. Okay? Because we have 4 pillars for the process of qiyas, and we'll be talking about inshallah. We have the first pillar, that is, we have al-'ilm, the causal effect, or the effective cause. And then we have al-asl. What is al-asl? The analogized to. And we have al-far', which is the analogized. Then you have the ruling, 4 pillars. So for the ruling to be implemented to the analogized, the causal, you need to build a connection between the analogized to and the analogized through what we call the causal effect, al-'ilm. Clear? But they deny that. Those who al-Zahiriyya and some يعني Ja'fariyya or Mashiyah. Okay? So this is, al-qiyas is disputed, but it's weak disputation. Clear? طيب, what about the statement of a companion?
Only
نعم. Well, actually, look, and we'll be talking about this inshallah, لكن يعني simply here, or يعني briefly, if we have a statement of Sahabi, who is known to be knowledgeable Sahabi, and this statement spreads around, and we don't know of any person who goes against it, especially of his caliber, then what would happen? This is unanimously agreed that it is hujjah. Okay? The differences happen when we have a knowledgeable Sahabi who states something, and we don't know of any person who is different with him, but his statement is not spread around. It is the case where we have people who did disagree, the likes of Abu Hanifa. They say that it is not authoritative. Okay? While the majority of the ulama, they will say that it's authoritative. Okay? طيب. So then, يعني, statement of a companion has 2 levels. One that is agreed upon, one that is disputed. طيب. Juristic preference, which is al-istihsan. This is disputed. Okay? Shafi'i won't take it. طيب. Legislation prior to Islam. Disputed. Actions of people of a Medina is heavily disputed. طيب. Presumption, we'll be talking about this inshallah. يعني actions of Al-Medina, it has details actually, because the actions of Al-Medina has 4 categories, not 1 category. But generally speaking, it's heavily disputed. يعني the one that we dispute, not the one that we agree on. طيب. Presumption of continuity, al-istishab. It's even disputed if it is evidence. Some people would argue that it's qaida, it's an axiom, rather than it is evidence. What is the major difference between a qaida and evidence? Quickly, يا إخوان.
Qaida is found through exhaustive research, and evidence is by default, you can take.
Okay, the major difference.
On in most cases.
Qaida, when you talk about most cases, as opposed to evidence that would be applicable to all cases. Okay, that's the nature of evidence. It's the consistency. If it once exists, and if in, let's say that 9 out of 10, it's applicable. Is it qaida or evidence? Qaida. Okay, so it's just have the presumption of continuity. That's why it's the weakest. This is the weakest evidence. Customs. العرف. هذا العرف. It's يعني disputed. طيب. Public interest. المصلحة المرسلة. It's also disputed, heavily disputed. طيب. Hindrance of means, heavily also disputed. Okay, سد الذريعة. So then, as you noticed, that we have evidences that are unanimously agreed upon, and we have evidences that are disputed. Those which are disputed, either to be disputed with weak disputation or with strong disputation. طيب. Now, what is the third? What is the third classification? Is it narrational or rational, or to be both? Now, Quran is what? Narrational, transmitted. Sunnah, narrational, transmitted. Ijma', narrational, transmitted. Qiyas, rational, reasonable. Statement of a companion, narrational, transmitted. Legislation prior to Islam, narrational. Actions of people of Medina, narrational. Presumption of continuity, rational. Customs, La, they are both. Okay? Narrational as well as rational. Unrestricted public interest, it's rational. You reason. Hindrance of means, rational. Actually, it's both. If you'd like to be more meticulous, it's both. Because hindrance of the means, you need to understand what the Sharia habitually does in order to hinder. Because Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah in his book I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in, he mentioned more than 99 evidences for this evidence, for it to be evidence, يعني من الأصول. So then you need to know how a Sharia would hinder the means that would lead to bad things. Okay? But still, the process that you would consider that this is going to be means that would lead to the bad things, you need what? Reasons. Sadd al-Dhari'ah. Because you need to make sure that this is actually Dhari'ah, means. And you need to make sure that it is Dhari'ah to that thing. And that thing is really bad. Okay? So in that process, definitely it is reasonable and rational. Clear, inshallah? طيب, so that's all what we need to know about evidence. And inshallah we'll be talking about what we call dalala. This is what Usool Ul Fiqh is all about. We have what we call a dalala, the signification, the indication, and we have the conditions of it. Okay? هذا مهم. This is crucial. يعني in order for a person to have the juristic foundation to be established, he definitely needs that. Otherwise, you will have like a layman. You will be a layman coming to the legal text, whether the book of Allah or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, or even the legal codifications that the ulama filled the libraries. In the Library of Congress, in some places they didn't find places for the books of al-fiqh in the so-called Middle Eastern section. They didn't find enough space for the whole, because we have madahib, we have the madahib, and we have the implemented madhahib, and we have the what we call obsolete madhahib, yani unimplemented madhahib. It's a big. So if you come to that without having the tools, you'll get lost. You don't know what's going on. And then you say, I will go to the book of Allah, to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, which is يعني decent endeavor. But if you don't speak Arabic well, what would happen? Catastrophes. Okay? Like, you will find some people who would say that, well, a car is mentioned in the Quran. Where is that? Allah says, وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِلسَّيَّارَةِ. Sayyara meaning a caravan. And he says that a sayyara, because it is a car in the Arabic language, is sayyara. He said that it is mentioned in the Quran. And by the way, it's not in every Arabic country that they call it sayyara. يعني مثلا in my country they call it sayyara. In the Gulf states they would call it sayyara. In Egypt مثلا they would call it Arabiyya. Okay? طيب. So that's all what we need today. And now we will have the time for questions if you have any. طيب, we'll stop here inshallah. Should we take 40? Well, we have 20 minutes. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Or we take questions, because if you have a lot of questions, we will have questions, because we have 20 minutes, which is a lengthy time, long time. If you don't have questions, then we just embark on our main.
I have one question.
Yeah, تفضل.
What kind of knowledge is considered unnecessary knowledge? What kind of knowledge is considered to be unnecessary?
Unnecessary knowledge. Actually, the majority of our knowledge is unnecessary. Is praying al-witr mandatory or not? Huh? It's unnecessary because it is disputed. Is it conditional for the validity of the marital contract to have mahar, yani dowry? Is it conditional for the validity of it? It is unnecessary knowledge, meaning that is disputed. Now, can you have many, مثلا, if we have murabaha, okay, transactional contract, that is called murabaha. Is it valid for it that the two parties agree on the assigned price for the commodity or not? This is disputed. This is unnecessary knowledge. So then we're talking about unnecessary knowledge. It means that we're talking about a level of knowledge that even if reflected upon, and you would go through the process of inference, you won't reach the level of undeniability. If it is still deniable, even to you, it's for you unnecessary. Although it could be for others undeniable. So therefore it is necessary for them. That's why we say that being necessary or unnecessary related to the beholder, to the observer, to the knower. Okay? That's why we have to. Now, everybody, alhamdulillah, amongst us, believe in Allah Azza wa Jal and the Day of Judgment. But do we have the same level of iman? No. Some people are so certain. Some people are less. So the level, always the level of knowledge, because look here, knowledge is part of al-hayy, because knowledge is an attribute only given to a living thing. And we're talking about the living thing, it means that you're talking about a willful being. Again, we differentiated this, and we mentioned this before, that we have three definitions of life. We have a definition amongst biologists. When they speak about living things, then they are talking about what? Chemical life. What is a chemical life? You need water and you need amino acid, protein, in order to produce it. To produce protein. Protein. How do you pronounce it in English? Protein. Okay. So you need this. This is for the biologist. So when you hear NASA, for example, looking for life in extra planets, what they are looking for? This type of life. Okay, you need water and amino acids, and all the conditions requested for life as we know it here. We have a philosophical definition of life, and we have theologian definition of life. Now, when we talk about the theologian definition of life, then we're talking about a willful being. Okay, a living being means a willful being. Now, if you have an attribute that is only possessed by that living being, but this type of living being, which is a willful being, it means that it goes up and it goes down. It increases and decreases. Since knowledge is an attribute of a living being, therefore, it increases and decreases. Okay? And this is noticeable. I mean, how would a person believe in something would be different. It could be the case that he will believe in it. I will give you an example. It is reported في الصحيحين in Bukhari and Muslim that a Sahabi, a companion by the name of Talha, radiallahu anhu, by the name of Hamad, actually, he once met Abu Bakr in the streets of Al-Medina. Then he said, I am a hypocrite. Hamad is a hypocrite. Abu Bakr said, why? He said that, look, when we sit with the Prophet ﷺ, then he described Al-Jannah and Al-Nar, the hellfire, and the Jannah, paradise. It's like if we see it in front of us. However, when we go to our family, when we go to our properties, when we go to do our business, we forget all of that. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he said, the things happen to you, they happen to me. So what he's saying to him, I am also a hypocrite if this is the case. If this is hypocrisy, I am also a hypocrite. Now, when they have problems, what do? They go back to the Prophet ﷺ. They refer it back to the Prophet ﷺ. As Allah has commanded them. Allah says, وَمَا اخْتَلَفْتُمْ فِيهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فَحُكْمُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. That whenever you have a dispute, you refer it back to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنكُمْ فَإِنْ تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. When you have disputes, you refer it back to Allah and His Messenger. To Allah meaning to His book, to His Messenger when He is alive, you go to Him. When He is dead, you go to His Sunnah, alayhi salatu wasalam. So after the demise of His sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we go to His Sunnah. And that's what they did, radiallahu anhu. They went to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they described the situation they are in. Then He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, if you continue in the state where you are, when you are with me, if you continue in the state the same as when you are with me, Sallallahu said that angels will shake your hands in the streets. What does that mean? You will move from the state of being humans to the state of being angels. You are not supposed to be like that. You are humans. Then Sallallahu said, وَلَكِنْ سَاعَةٌ وَسَاعَةٌ. 1 hour and 1 hour. What does he mean? He also said, 1 hour you will be. 1 hour does not mean 60 minutes. 1 hour meaning a period of time. You will be at this level of certainty. And another level, you go to do your business. You take care of yourself, your family, your property, your business. You do your business. You do the things that you are supposed to be doing. You can't be at the same state. You can't. That's why Islam said, if you continue the same, you will not be humans, you will be angels. And you are not angels. Angels are programmed to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون لا يسبقونه بالقول وهم بأمره يعملون. That's why they are not mukallaf, because they just do it. They are willful being, they are rational being, but they don't have shahawat, they don't have whimsical desires. They just do it. Okay? As opposed to us, we are a creation who has mind and he has soul as well as desires. The desires of the body. So that there are needs of your body. So to be continuously at the same level of belief is impossible for a person to be human. Even the Prophet ﷺ, he used to say, إِنَّهُ لَيُغَانُ عَلَى قَلْبِي فِي الصَّحِيحِ, that my heart has some cover. That's why I make istighfar. This is في الصحيح, حديث الغر المزني في الصحيح. So the point is that the level of knowledge, the level of belief will go up and will go down. We ourselves, as a living thing or a living being, that life will go up. Our life, the very essence of our life, will go up and it goes down, and it goes down, decrease. So then, when we talk about necessity and the unnecessity, it is related to the person, to the observer, to the knower. Now, تفضل.
How do you answer a person that says that there's a paradox in the Quran or in the Islamic text?
We say that, show it. Okay? We say that, look, we say that you won't find any contradiction, paradoxes in the Quran in terms of telling things. Because look, speech is of two types. The first type is telling. Okay, telling. This is what we call al-khabar. Al-khabar is that it's a statement that which has the capacity to be described as a true or false, regardless of the one who is saying it. Statement. Yani, for example, if I say, what's your name, your brother? Dan. Daniel. Okay. If I say Daniel is handsome, okay, this is a statement. Could be true, could be false, but regardless of the one who is saying it, okay. But if I say that, Daniel, would you please do such and such, or Daniel, would you please not do such and such, or if I say that, would you please stand, would you please sit down, and so on, and so on and so forth. The second type of sentences is what we call jumal insha'i. Okay, these are sentences, initiative sentence. Okay, so then in the whole Quran, you won't find the Quran telling. Okay, the first type of sentences, you won't find the Quran at all telling you something, then it will be untrue or contradictory. And it's by nature. If it is contradictory, it means that it's not true. Okay? Allah says, وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Had it not been revealed from Allah, from God, they would have found not contradictions, a lot of contradictions. That's why we use it as a measurement, as a criterion for knowing that that text is authentic or not by seeing if there are contradictions or not. Because the Quran challenged people to bring about the Quran. So you won't find at all in the Quran that it will tell something, then it will tell something different from it. It contradicts it. طيب, what about the initiative statement, the initiative sentences. As long as there is no abrogation, you won't find contradiction. Okay? That's why when we look at the Quran, we look that when we have two statements that they appear to be contradictory. You say that ظاهره التعارض, يعني when they appear to be contradictory and when they conflict. Okay? Then we have ways of what we call reconciliation. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ did this. The Sahaba did this. Okay? We have mechanisms. This is what Usool Ul Fiqh will help you to do in order to develop the skills or to adapt, to be trained with the skills how to reconcile the apparent contradiction as long as there is no abrogation. It could be the case that you will find a command and prohibition because one of them will abrogate the other. But if there is no abrogation, then there are ways of reconciliation, we call it. Now, the Hanafi school, they usually say that if we have an apparent contradiction, then they immediately go to abrogation, which is a very weak one. While the majority of the ulama, the way that they do it, they do reconciliation. In what way? They say that, first of all, we do reconciliation, meaning jama, bringing them together. And there are multiple ways of doing that. Okay? Multiple ways. Because sometimes, look, the ta'awud, sometimes it will be textual conflict. Sometimes it will be text and reason. Sometimes it will be reason with reason. Sometimes it will be experience or sensical and the text and the sensical and so on and so forth. And again, it only appears to be. Okay? If they are irreconcilable in all the ways that the ulama present and structure, then we go to something called a tarjih, give it a preponderancy. We give a priority for one over the other. And again, this is based upon systemization, systematic methods. We don't just do it arbitrarily. That's why you won't find contradiction in the way that the ulama give priorities, because it is based upon qawa'id, not based upon whimsical desires. Now, once this is achieved, okay, or once this is not achieved, that we don't give a priority. We don't give preponderancy. Then what do? We go to abrogation. Then now there is a claim of abrogation. However, for abrogation to happen, you need two conditions. The first condition is that there is no way of reconcilability, nor there is way of giving a preponderancy. The second thing is that you need to know the date, the history, meaning that you need to know that which comes before and that which comes after. So the point is that when a person comes and says that there are paradoxes in the Quran, the first thing that we say, show them. Ibn Khuzaymah rahimahullah used to shout in the street of Khurasan. He used to say, while he was in Nishabur, in eastern part of Iran now, he used to say that I challenge anybody to bring me two texts in the Quran or in the Sunnah that they would contradict each other if they are not abrogated. And he was presented sometimes 100 cases daily, and he will reconcile them. That's why the more you know, the more that you are knowledgeable, the more that you understand the text. Okay? So this is the brief answer to a person who claims that there is a paradoxes in the Quran. Now,
If someone has a deeper understanding of knowledge other than the deen in any academy,
what?
in any academy, like when they have a PhD in some subject, and if that doesn't lead him to know Allah, who is Lord is, what kind of knowledge would it be? Can we say he has a knowledge?
He has a knowledge, but it's not beneficial knowledge. He is knowledgeable, but it is not beneficial. That's why he used to say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min ilmin la yanfa'. I seek refuge in you from a knowledge that is not beneficial. And when we talk about knowledge that is not beneficial, we have two types of them. Either that very knowledge is not fruitful, the very knowledge. Okay, like for example, you know, you learn about magic. You learn how to do sorcery. This is unbeneficial knowledge. It is knowledge. The Quran called it knowledge, but it's not. But it's unbeneficial. That's why Allah said, فَيَتَعَلَّمُونَ مَا يَضُرُّهُمْ وَلَا يَنْفَعُهُم. Allah called it knowledge, but it's not beneficial knowledge, because you have knowledge and unknowledge. Then that knowledge is either to be beneficial or unbeneficial. The unbeneficial knowledge is the one that we just mentioned to you, this one type. Another type is that which is in its essence beneficial, but that person does not benefit from it. Actually, he could use it to do to harm himself or to harm others. يعني مثلا الآن, you know, learning rocket science. Okay, is this beneficial knowledge? Absolutely. But a person could not benefit from it. Or to the contrary, he will use it to do harm to himself and to others. So then, a knowledge that is not beneficial, either that knowledge is in of itself, in its essence, not beneficial, but it's good, but it's knowledge. Yani now, sorcery, for a person to, for sorcery, a person needs to know about sorcery. To be a sorcerer, مثلا. He needs to have this knowledge, but it's unbeneficial knowledge. Okay? I will give you a story. You know, there was a caliph by the name of Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. A man came to him and he was playing around, having pebbles. He would throw them and they would be inside, when he throws them, they would be inside a very small hole. So he has the skill from a far distance, he will throw these pebbles and they will be inside. So Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, when he did this in front of him, because he did it 100 times, and he did it. So Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, he lashed him 10 times. He said that, oh, the Amir of believers, and look, he lashed him 10 times, and he gave him 100 dinars. He said, why are you doing that? I understand you give me 100 dinars, but why are you lashing me 10 times? He said that, look, the 100 dinars, because you are skillful, but the 10 lashes, because there is no benefit of the skill. So what? What's the benefit of it? So what? What are you going to help the society do? If you are good at basketball, مثلا, you're good, you're skillful, but how is this going to help the society? How is it going to improve the society? You're very good at soccer. You know how to score, and you are wonderful in every possible aspect. But so what? What are we gonna get? The society. So what? You scored 100 goals in one season. So what? It's only because we make you something significant. Something significant. That's why you are famous and be able. Otherwise, during last times, such activities trivial, so trivial. So what? Why we don't appreciate scientists, scholars like this, like those people? Those are developing the society. Those are moving the society forward. Those are the people making the world better. But not necessarily appreciated. Anyways, so not every knowledge, it is knowledge to be beneficial. Sometimes the other type of knowledge that is beneficial, it is beneficial, but it's not beneficial to the one who holds it, the one who has it. فنسأله تعالى يعلمنا ما ينفعنا وينفعنا بما علمنا ويزيدنا علما وعملا إنه جواد كريم. الله أعلم وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله.